and welcome to another episode of FooBar. Today, we are going to talk about how you can work in AWS, how you can apply to work in AWS, what kind of jobs are there outside from the ones of building the services, for technical people, how you can go through the AWS interview, some tips, and so many things. A lot of the questions came from you asked them, and I'm just proxying them to Kris Howard. That is the person that we are going to interview. She has interviewed over hundreds of people for AWS roles, so she knows all the process the best. If you like this type of content, please don't forget to give a thumbs up. Thumbs ups really help my channel to grow. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment box below. YouTube loves them. And if you want to inspire some friends to work or you in the future, share this content so more people can access it. So without further ado, let's go to the interview. Hello and welcome to another episode. Today we have an amazing guest, Kris Howard. She's a DA manager for EMEA Emerging Markets. How are you, Kris?
Do you know how excited I am to be here, Marcia? Ever since I met you and saw your show, and you know I'm a huge fan. I used one of your tutorials just recently to build a little Amplify app. So such a huge fan. This is like life goals.
Good. I'm going to the memory land. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing.
Well, as you say, I'm in the developer relations team, but I'm new to this team. I've actually been at AWS for almost 3 years now. Coming up June, I think June will be 3 years for me, which has flown by. But the first part of my career at AWS, I was actually in Australia. So I've spent the last 20 years in Sydney, Australia. And I was a solutions architect manager at AWS there. So working with SAs. And then early 2020, my husband and I thought, it's time to move overseas for a while. Let's do some traveling. And I saw a role and I know we're going to talk about internal movements at AWS, but I saw a role to join the Dev Rel team and I applied. And then meanwhile, this COVID thing happened, but
let's travel.
Let's travel. And so I kept expecting AWS to be like, nah, we're not going to do that. But no, I ended up moving to Germany at the end of August last year and joined the Dev Rel team. And so I've been on the team for 6 or 7 months now, and it has been really fun.
2 winters in a row.
I did go 2 winters in a row, but winter in Australia, you don't get snow. So yeah.
So now you will have a proper European summer.
I'm really excited for summer. It's a beautiful day here today.
But today I think we are focusing more on your current experience as a manager, as a hiring manager, and as an SA manager, and all your experience in recruiting and hiring. Can you share a little bit about that? Because that's the focus of our talk.
Yeah. Well, my early part of my career was a developer a long time ago. When I started out in the .com boom a long time ago, but over the years sort of moved more into management roles, into people leader roles. And so when I joined AWS, it was like, great, you're a hiring manager now. Go hire SAs. So I had to learn very, very quickly. In coming up on 3 years, I've done over 150 interviews.
Wow.
Yeah, not all for my team, but
no.
Yeah, and so a lot of them for my team, for SAs, the majority would be. And then this year, one of the interesting things is we have a program, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, called the Bar Raiser program at AWS, at Amazon, actually. It's an Amazon program. And so I decided when I moved to Europe that I would finally apply for this program because it would basically let me meet other people. And so I've been able to participate in hiring for roles all across Amazon in Europe, which has been actually a lot more fun than I expected, because sometimes interviewing, especially if you're hiring managers out there, they know this, hiring can be a real grind. I've hired one person for my team so far, our colleague Veliswa, who's amazing. Yeah. We know this.
We interview her later on.
Oh, yeah.
She has an interviewer.
Oh, good. I'm so happy about her. And I've got 2 more open roles that I'm trying to fill. So
links in the description box.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please do. But yeah, hiring for other people's teams for some reason is a lot more fun than hiring for mine, just because, you get to just meet lots of people from different backgrounds. So that's been occupying me since the start of this year, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's like shopping for others. I think it's more fun than shopping for myself.
Way more fun. You're not like, oh no, am I making the wrong decision? Ooh. Yeah.
So that's super cool. So whatever we are going to discuss today, you have seen it all over 150 interviews.
Probably,
for technical roles. And I think we mentioned the word SA like 20 times in these like 10 minutes that we have been recording. I think less by now. What is an SA?
Yeah, and I think I asked that question when the recruiter reached out to me about the role. I was like, I've not been one of these. Why do you want me to be one of these? And then they told me about sort of what SAs do. And I had been referred by someone who was a friend of mine who was working at AWS in Sydney. And I went, oh, okay, I see why you're reaching out to me. So solutions architects, and it is important to define because this term gets used a lot in different companies and it means different things oftentimes.
And AWS has their certification, solution architect. So
we do have certifications. But yeah, solutions architects, aside from the certification.
Exactly.
At AWS, they're part of the sales org, you'd call it. But they're not salespeople. They're all technical people with like a very technical background. And what they are is they're really a free resource for AWS customers. You know, they give them advice. They're a technical advisor. We want them to be sort of a trusted advisor. To help them make sure that what they're building on AWS is well architected, it's secure, it's performant, it's cost optimized. And I think that would always surprise people is like, no, an SA doesn't go in to try and sell you stuff. In fact, if one of the SAs on my team said, Kris, I just recommended a serverless architecture that's going to save this customer $5,000 a month. That is amazing. That is customer obsession, which is one of our leadership principles. And it is absolutely amazing. That's what we want solutions architects to do.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the solution architects get confused with consultants. No, they're not consultants.
Yeah, they're not. That's the one key thing I would say for people who are thinking of being an SA is they don't do the work for the customers. You know, we have other teams at AWS. We have professional services, ProServe, who will actually go on site and help people build stuff. An SA is giving them advice. They might build some demos and proof of concepts to show things off, but they're not doing the work for the customer. They're doing a lot more talking about it and whiteboarding what we're going to build.
And it's not support neither. It's not that...
No, we have other roles for that. Yeah, exactly. We have both our customer support team, who that's actually an amazing way to get started at AWS is if you're looking for a foot in the door. Customer support is a great way, and they will train you up on such a wide variety of AWS services. It's like boot camp for learning AWS. And it is often a feeder into solutions architects roles and also TAM
developer
roles.
Advocates.
And developer advocates, exactly. We do. TAMs, technical account managers, they work with some of our biggest customers and they're sort of more part on the support side. But they also work with very big customers. And yeah, we have a lot of different people who interact with our customers.
Yeah, and all these roles that you are mentioning, I think it's important to mention that they are global. They are not based in US. So if you're listening to this or watching this episode from anywhere in the world, for sure there is an AWS office that has some ProServe people, some SA people, maybe some TAMs, the support, the consultants, and the solution architects, and maybe other roles that are more like account managers or more business roles that we are not going to cover, but there might be as well there to support. So I think one of the things that was funny when I started working in AWS in Helsinki, I didn't know that there was an office in Helsinki until quite late on. And when I start telling people like I'm working in Helsinki, it's like, are you based in Helsinki? There's an office, and these are technical people that have been using AWS. It's not like they were like not aware. I was like, yeah, there is an office, but because it's maybe small and there is just SAs that are working with customers that might be anywhere in Finland or in the Nordics. It's not that you will see a huge sign that so go and check online if there is an office. You might get surprised.
Well, and I think a lot of customers don't know about solutions architect. If you're using AWS, you have a solutions architect that is somehow responsible for you. You know, there's different ways we divide up the teams and we can talk about that. But, you know, oftentimes if you register for like reInvent or one of our big events, we'll reach out to you, a week or two later and just say, oh, by the way, I would love to have a call with a solutions architect. And they will set that up with you because you definitely have one. And if you're saying, hey, I'm thinking of building this new application on the cloud, we'll make that happen because we want to support you in building new applications.
Exactly. And I think that's super important because nobody knows that they have the resource. They think that they need to have a super high support plan, and that's a totally different thing.
It's free. You do not pay for solutions architects. Like, get some free advice.
Exactly. So go and reach to your solution architect. And I think this leads us to the different types of solution architects. Because the moment you go to the careers page, you will see solution architect, public sector, solution architect startup, solution architect SMB. They're not very descriptive if you're not inside AWS, so maybe you don't know.
Yeah. And like the DA role, there's specialists too, you know? So there's all different kinds. So yeah, I mean, I think that's an important distinction is there's regional solutions architects who sort of cover a particular group of customers, or maybe even just one customer if they're big enough, or you have specialists. So if we start more on the sort of regional patch, we always say at Amazon, we work backwards from our customers. It's sort of one of our guiding principles. And so we actually organize our solutions architecture teams, our sales teams around our customers. So my team back in Australia, we were on the commercial side. So that's the first division, commercial versus public sector. So public sector, governments, education, a public infrastructure, stuff like that. So I have friends who work on that side of things. But my team was on the commercial sector side of things. So we worked with just private, all customers all around. Then we're divided by the kinds of customers we are. So it starts off with enterprise, which are your really big customers. And so if your solutions...
That also depends on the impact, because maybe in an enterprise, there is one or two customers per solution architect, but the more you move down into like small and medium businesses,
you end up with lots.
You have a different scale.
Yeah. Like... if you're working at the biggest customers like the Netflixes, they will have multiple SAs assigned to just them.
Exactly.
So really it depends on the account team that's working with you. So there's enterprise level. Then we have a team called ISVs, which I know is an acronym some people may not be familiar with. It stands for Independent Software Vendor. So these are SaaS providers, you can think of them. These are sort of companies that build software, for other companies. Atlassian is probably your classic ISV there. And the idea is, if you think about it, is the needs of companies like that are very different from the needs of like a bank, So there's different skill sets. So it's almost like specialization. So the SAs that work with ISVs are often looking at SaaS solutions really, and how to architect SaaS solutions. Then we've got D&B, digital native businesses. This is a new segment in a lot of geos around the world. And these are your sort of pure born in the cloud, direct to consumer, like startups, but bigger, established companies. And so again, they don't have legacy applications often that they need to migrate, they're cloud native from day dot. We also, of course, have a startup team who are working with very early stage startups. And we have special programs that give them credits and stuff like that. And as part of that, you get an SA who'll give you guidance on getting your startup up off the ground, and special consultants to help you find product market fit and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And then there was my team. My team were the SMB team, the small to medium businesses. Yeah, well, we're the long tail, that long tail of like 70% of AWS customers. And so a solutions architect in that team, like if you like variety, that is the team for you, because you'll be working with retail, with fintech, with hospitality, with traditional manufacturing, like every different kind of business you can think of. And you got to be real good at pretty much any type of technology, because this guy might want to build ag tech. They want to do something where they're putting IoT sensors on cows. And this company over here wants to rip out all the cameras in their parking garages and make them connected to the cloud. And then you've got a hot fintech startup who wants to move their core banking system to like everything. That's SMB.
Very fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun. And then outside of those, you've got specialists. So some of the SAs are very deep in a particular, like, say, serverless. I know some people are really into serverless.
I think so.
Yeah, weirdos like that. But and so if you're very deep in a technology, you can be a specialist SA where you don't have particular customers assigned. Instead, all the other SAs can tap on you for help because we have over 200 services. No one can be an expert in all of them. So if I'm a generalist SA and I need deep machine learning, I can tap on a specialist who'll come in and help me with that customer engagement and teach me some stuff. But that's their job, is to kind of be like parachuted in the special forces.
That's super interesting. So basically we have different types of SAs: the generalists that work directly with customers, the specialists that help all kind of people that need that particular technology. And then we also have different levels. At least when you open the careers page, you will see senior, you will see principal, you will see nothing. You will see, I don't know, junior. I don't know if we have junior. Do we have
We
junior?
do. We have associate solutions architects.
Associate is the word.
Yep.
Okay.
Associate. Yep.
So that's
so associate are usually straight out of uni or very early stage in their career. And, not all geos have associates. I think you want to have sort of a big enough team that you can support them and grow them. But really beyond that, it depends on kind of the level of industry experience. Obviously, what level of which customer segment is it? If you're dealing with one of the biggest enterprises, you're going to spend a lot of time in meetings with CTOs and people who are from the C-suite. You probably want a principal solutions architect, someone who's got years of experience of having those conversations and of driving really big impact changes across huge, huge parts of businesses.
And what if there is, for example, just telling an hypothetical case, there is a senior solution architect position open, but I might be nothing solution architect. Like I'm not senior yet. I'm not associate. I have some experience. Yeah. Should I apply?
You should absolutely always apply. Always apply. First of all, because as a hiring manager, what I can do is I can usually, when we do the interview, if I decide, actually, I don't think they're quite at this level, I might be able to actually hire as a non-senior. Oh. But we put the jobs in as the highest level that we can take. So you should always apply because there's a possibility that you might be raising the bar in certain aspects they need for that job, and they can actually change the job for you. So you should never not always apply. And also, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, because even if you don't get through, we're really good at recycling candidates. You might not be right for that role, but we will find another role where you are. And a lot of people don't get hired on their first try. A lot of people don't get hired on their first try.
And another question that I think is quite overwhelming when you look at the job description, they ask for so many things. Do I need to have everything?
They're so hard to write. I mean, I will stand up for the hiring manager. Look, I know that they're not great. They're so hard to write. You want to capture everything. Yeah, I know. They could always be better. And I'm always going back and tweaking them. No, of course you don't need to have everything. And so I think even I've tried to get away from the sort of bullet point style. Like one of the things
normal, like you need to have 15 years of experience in this industry and 20 years of experience in that is like how I can have so many years of experience, maybe when I was born. So it's very scary.
The job I was hired for, if I had seen the job description, I would not have applied because it would have scared me too much. So,
it was imposter syndrome that they were 1 year chasing me because I was thinking I was not good for this job. For over 1 year, I was like, I cannot do this thing.
Yes, 100%. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. What you could always do is reach out to the hiring manager. And I've actually had informal chats with people. Obviously that's time dependent and but if a candidate reaches out to me and looks promising but isn't sure, I can have a little coffee chat with them just to talk to them about what the job actually is and just see if it's the right fit for them. Or also on LinkedIn, someone messaged me on LinkedIn. I'll send them, I've got sort of a copy paste of here are some of the things like common questions people ask.
So then that's something you can always do is reach out.
Yeah. I mean, you got to bear in mind, like sometimes we get a lot of requests or it's a busy time of year. We don't necessarily get back very quick, but we try.
We try. And I think hiring is so hard that we want to get everybody a chance because.
Absolutely. And I work with, we work with internal hiring managers, work with internal recruiters. And the internal recruiters I work with at Amazon are so great. Like they really go out, they're looking for great talent and they want to find a role for you. So they will be happy to answer questions too.
Exactly. So ping the recruiter, ping the hiring manager. I think both of the names should be in the ad. So you should be able to reach someone.
They show internally. I don't know if they show externally.
We need to check that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But try to find it out. Or someone in the same role, Google in LinkedIn.
That is a very, very good way of doing it. And I do get people messaging me asking about it all the time.
Yeah, because we are desperate for people. So nobody will tell you like, oh.
The hiring will never be done.
No.
It will never. As soon as I fill my last one, I'm done. No, it will never be done.
So, but let's go a little bit back to how a typical week of an SA looks, because you give they do so many things that maybe we can put it in order on what an SA will do, like a general SA that works with customers.
Okay, it's hard to say because it varies so much, but I'll talk about my old team. So my old team working with, the small to medium businesses, working with lots of customers. What I would usually tell people is that an average week, you expect to have a bunch of meetings. You know, you're going to have team meetings. You're going to meet with your account manager. That's your sort of counterpart. You're going to so expect to spend part of your week, half a day on meetings and stuff like that. You can also expect to spend at least half a day a week on your email. You know this, we're a very email heavy company. You'll have emails from customers. You will have there's a lot of that. As an SA, one of the things the solutions architects orgs try to do is set aside 20% of sharpen the saw time, which is basically 1 day a week. Yeah, because there are so many services we want you to keep up to speed on. And so usually, and it varies from team to team how they set it up. But for my team, we tried to get them to set aside Friday as sharpen the saw time. Block out your calendar, tell your account manager not to schedule customer meetings. And we give, you know this, one of the great parts about working here is you get an AWS account with a little infinity symbol on it because we want you to learn. We want you to spin up new applications and try things out.
And then you get the how much you will pay if you have to pay it. Oh, fuck, I left my Neptune running for the last month. My Neptune cluster with 27 different machines.
There are some limits. Oops. I was doing a machine learning job and I was like, I'm just going to fire up a P3 extra large. And it was like, you must ask for permission. But I got permission.
You get permission. I have permission for all the weird things that I want to do.
Yeah. So that leaves that, and look, I saw a talk internally where one of the SA leaders talked about this. We worked out that you end up with roughly half your week that you can actually go out and see customers. Once you take out everything else. So half the week of going out and working with customers. And so that might mean that you're just doing calls, depending if it's a first meeting, nowadays it's all video conference, but in the old days, we would actually go out and meet with customers on site. You might be doing whiteboarding. You might be giving them a presentation. You might just be answering some questions via email with them, or it varies. But you can expect to spend at least half your week as an SA actively talking to customers.
Yeah, and the rest, at least I saw many essays doing public speaking.
That's another thing you fit into the other half of your time. They do have goals around thought leadership. And this is one of the areas where I think the SA, DA, there are areas of overlap. And so essays do have goals around thought leadership. So writing blog posts, giving talks. They, often get PR certified so they can go out and speak at big events and speak at meetups and stuff like that. So they do a lot of thought leadership too.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty nice because if you don't want to lose your customer interactions like DAs, we are all about scale and doing big things to a lot of people. SAs are more in the customer side, but they also get the experience events and talk, and that's part of their job. And another thing I notice SAs do a lot is to drive good practices inside the organization. They are really knowledgeable people, and they work on getting mechanisms for technologies, on how to decide which technology, or managing the internal expertise committees for different technologies. So
I mean, one of the cool things is you can join a technical field community, which is, I guess, kind of like a guild or something, you know? And so we have different ones for different technologies or different services or even different industry verticals. And so we expect SAs to join one of those. And yeah, they work very closely with service teams and get to give input on things. You know, they often get together and, as you say, we'll write white papers. The well-architected framework, for example, SAs contribute to that. Another one, the AWS solutions that we build and that we put on the public facing website, the SAs are involved in building those. Yeah, they do a lot around this sort of thing. And one aspect of the job I didn't mention as well is taking feedback from customers and feeding it back to service teams. Like, that's a really cool one. You get to, you know, 90% of what we build is driven by customer request. And it really is true. And the SAs are the people who are literally at the edge there of taking requests and feeding it back, getting people into whitelisted beta programs so that they can give us feedback on new services or new capabilities. It's a really important part of the SA job.
So this is more or less of what an SA does. And I think, at least for me,
I'm sure I've missed things too.
I'm pretty sure.
There's so many.
But one thing of AWS that you have these roles, but you can always get outside of your role and do things that are inspiring and are kind of good that you like. So maybe a lot of SAs are doing a lot of crazy things.
Yeah.
It's impossible to generalize.
Hosting podcasts. All kinds of stuff.
So yeah, definitely. I think it's a great way to get into the company and to see so many different things more than a particular service. Than sometimes we always think Amazon, Facebook, or this big organization is to work on the core product, but there is so much more in AWS than just the core services. And I think SAs is one of those fun roles that you get to do a lot of things.
Well, and in the old days, you got to travel quite a bit, you know, like we would get together and we do internal training and hearing internal conferences. That was so fun. I missed that. Unfortunately,
let's hope it happens soon. But yeah, now I hope we got everybody excited to be an SA. The next question is how we get there.
Well, the first thing I say to anyone who wants to apply for a job at Amazon is the website is amazon.jobs. Just
Link
go
in the
there.
Description.
Amazon.jobs. You can search on a job. You can search by location. You can search by all kinds of stuff, and then apply. But here's the thing. Everyone says, what if I have a friend who works there? Can I get them to refer me? You absolutely can, but do that before you apply, because what your friend will do is they will submit the CV for you internally. That way, your friend also oftentimes can get some bonus if you get hired. Like
and a phone tool, that's more important than any bonus.
Phone tool icon. Oh my gosh, I've never gotten one. I've referred so many people. I'm still hoping.
You don't have the top referrer.
No, I need to refer more people. So yeah, reach out to me. I'll refer you. But yeah, people always say, oh, but I've already applied. It's like, oh, okay, well, your friend can sort of then kind of retroactively try and get their name to say I referred them, but it's much easier if you just have them do it for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, apply through there.
It might speed up the process if your friend refer you.
I think it does. I mean, we actually have SLAs around our hiring processes. So we really, as hiring managers, as recruiters, try and not keep people hanging too long. But yeah, I think it does. It doesn't give like a ton of weight. I wouldn't be like, well, Marcia referred you, therefore I'm going to hire you.
I don't think it matters who refers you, but it's good that it's like, maybe it's easier somehow.
It makes your CV stand out a little bit more.
And also your friend might know the hiring manager and can send a message, hey, I just referred this person.
That is the true benefit there.
I do that all the time whenever I refer a friend.
Yeah.
He's super cool.
And I'll be like, oh, okay, tell me about them. All right, okay.
So that always helps. Yeah. And it can be anyone inside Amazon or AWS in anywhere of the world. So don't worry if you have a friend that works you're applying for an AWS role in South Africa and your friend works in Seattle in Amazon, ask them to refer its internal
I referred someone for like a job in Prime Video in like America, like all over the place.
It doesn't matter. So that's the first step. It's time to get your referral. And one question I get asked a lot, is there remote positions? Is that something that happens nowadays with COVID? Yes, we are all remote, but after COVID ends.
There are remote positions, but look on the job. And actually, that's a good thing to ask the hiring manager too. So for example, right now, my roles that I'm hiring for the developer advocate, they don't have to be based in a particular location. Like we have to have an AWS office there, but our roles are really not tied to a particular place. So I've had to put a city on the form, but if you say, oh, I live, there's probably some flexibility in it. So I would talk to the hiring manager or the recruiter about it. There are roles that will be explicitly advertised as being virtual or being remote. I know, for example, our colleague Dennis, he was a global SA. I didn't even mention the global team. There are SAs who work with global customers, really big global customers. And so I believe his role, he told me, was advertised as being a virtual role because it didn't really matter where you were. So yeah, you just need to look at where the location is on the job.
And some roles are US, but anywhere in US. So look at the hiring position and ask the person, because don't feel afraid to apply for something that you can always ask those questions later.
Yeah. And I mean, like right now with our roles, like the DA roles, people are asking me, oh, can I be in North America? And
I'm a Latin America DA and I live in fucking Finland.
Well, exactly. Time zones are really hard.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm like time zones are much easier if you're on this side of the world. But
But that's something that it's up to you to decide if you want to take the burden of having free mornings and more busy afternoons.
Yeah. Well, and eventually you'll have to travel there, right? Once that happens again.
Not a lot.
That's
something because Latin America is so big. So going from Mexico to Argentina takes longer than going from Madrid to, California. So but it depends on the role. So you can do all kind of things. So it's just good to ask the hiring manager.
Yes.
And they will tell you what is the need of the team, if they can handle multiple time zones, if they can handle virtual locations when this COVID situation goes out. And so ask, don't limit yourself. So now we apply. Our CV goes to the magic place and a recruiter pick it up. And what happens next?
So the recruiter will have worked really closely with the hiring manager on what are we looking for in this role? And you don't have to include, like in the olden days, they'd say you must have a cover letter, and you might, nobody does that anymore, really, a nice CV, but you should tailor it to the job. Like, for example, for a developer advocate job, if you send me that and it's just got, I'm a software developer, I want to know what talks you've done. I want to see some blog posts you've written, like read the job description and tailor it a little bit, because otherwise it's going to be like, this person doesn't really know what they're applying for. So you want to make sure it's tailored for the position. So the recruiter will do a basic pass. They'll look for the CVs that they think might be a good fit. Then they will send them to the hiring manager to review, or other people on the team. And so I'll have a look at them. Sometimes I actually go back and ask questions and get the recruiter. The recruiters I work with will often have a call with people that we're maybe on the cusp about and ask some questions to them. And then once you're through, it varies from job to job. Usually you will expect to have at least one phone screen before you have on-site interviews.
And now there's no on-site interviews.
Well, that's true. On-site are all virtual now. But in the olden days, it would have been an on-site interview. Yeah. Yeah.
But
so
what is that phone screen?
At least one phone screen.
What that means? Is that a technical chat, or it's like, depends what you should expect?
It depends. So the recruiter should give you some preparation. They will give you some preparation for what you can expect. I mean, usually my approach as a hiring manager, to be completely honest here, was to make the first phone screen the hardest one. So that's where I would put my best technical interviewer, because honestly, if you can't meet the bar there, I don't want to invest the time of having 6 people do, more interviewing. So that first one is probably going to be the one where we check, can this person actually do the role? So you should expect to probably have some technical questions in that first one, depending. We'll also ask about other questions about your motivation for the role, your experience, but we don't ask a lot of traditional style, tell me your 5-year plan, Marcia. We don't do that so much in our interviews.
No, we will talk a little bit about the questions in a moment. So basically, if you are listening to this, in general, people don't tend to prepare a lot for phone screens. When AWS calls you, prepare.
And take the advice that the recruiters do a good job of preparing you, and just listen to their advice.
Yeah, because it's not like they're just calling you to tell you about the shop. No. They want to know if the time of the, as you said, the 6 persons coming after, and also your time, because you don't want to be put through an interview that you will suck at and then nobody can get any benefit from it. So it's wasted time for everybody. So now we pass the phone interview or the phone screening. What happens next?
Well, if it is a technical like coding role, you might have to do a coding assessment. So we don't use it for our roles. But I know that for some of the roles, for the software engineering roles, you might actually have an online assessment. And it really varies team by team. And look, this is an area where I know our internal teams are doing a lot of, to try and find out which tools are most helpful. You know, I've worked in a lot of tech companies and interviewing was always the hardest part. And how do you come up with a test that actually relates to whether the person's going to be any good at the job is a fine art. And so it varies from team to team. But yeah, there's a few different assessments different teams use. Not just
in your own time. It's not.
I think you do that in your own time. That's my understanding. I actually haven't been involved in an engineering interview yet, so that would be really cool. I've done one, for example, for a user experience designer recently, which was fascinating, and they had to actually do a portfolio review, which I'd never seen. So it depends on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think there is whiteboarding, but that comes later.
Solutions architects, you wouldn't expect a coding interview. You'd expect a whiteboarding interview.
So no coding interview, but there will be a whiteboarding interview after this technical assessment. There will be then this what we call the loop.
Yes, the loop in capital letters. Yeah.
Yes. So what is the loop?
The loop is just the series of interviews you have. Normally it's over one day. Sometimes, if we have to spread it out for a person's schedule, we can. But normally we try and do it in one day because we don't want to take up a lot of your time. And you can probably expect to see between 4 and 6 different interviewers. One of them will be the hiring manager. You'll probably have some other people, like stakeholders involved in the team that the role is for. And you will also have one special person who is not from the team. Do you want to talk about that now?
Sure. Now is the right time to talk about it.
So Amazon has a page, and I can give you the link. We can share the link below about the bar raiser program, because it's something really unique that Amazon started actually in 1999, I believe, more than 20 years ago. It was originally called Bar Keeper, which I find really funny because it was about keeping the bar. And then they're like, no, it should be about raising the bar. So it's bar raisers. And the idea is that
before talking about the bar raiser, we need to talk about the concept of bar raising. That's something we talk a lot internally, but maybe people listening are like, "What, the bar raisers? What bar are raising?"
Yeah. Well, the idea is like if I'm a hiring manager and I want to hire someone from my team, obviously I want to hire quickly. That's my goal, but we want to make sure that Amazon as a whole is always getting better, is always adding people who are going to make the company better. And therefore, we set a goal that every new hire has to be better than 50% of people already in the role. And think about that. That means that every new hire, it means that people like us who've been here for a while, it's like, oh my gosh, like now we're probably like,
lucky we joined early on.
Yes, everybody's got to continually work hard to raise the bar. And look, it's not like we reduce you to a calculation or anything. People raise the bar in different ways, and there's different aspects of the role. So don't think that just because you're not the world's best coder, that doesn't mean you might not raise the bar in other aspects. But yeah, that's what bar raising is about. It's about making sure that with every new hire, Amazon actually gets a little bit stronger and a little bit better.
Yeah. So then we have the bar raisers like you.
So the bar raiser is there. This is where I'm wearing 2 hats at the moment, because as a hiring manager, it's like, bar raiser. I just want to hire this person. I like them. The bar raiser is from outside the team, and they are meant to keep Amazon's long-term goals in mind. And they're going to say, I know you need this role filled right away, Kris, but actually, I don't think this person is a good long-term fit for Amazon. So I'm going to say no. Or I'm going to say, yes, they are a good investment for Amazon. So it's a way of being a bit more objective because they're often from an entirely different part of the business. They don't have any of that pressure of filling this role, and they're just keeping the bar high going forward. And so, yeah, I'm training to be one of these people, which has just been
I really like the concept
amazing.
Of bar racing because it opens diversity, I think, in the sense, in general, when you are interviewing a team, everybody's more or less the same. At least when you're interviewing for software development companies. But when you have the bar racer, it's this odd person that doesn't belong to the team, maybe doesn't belong to the organization, might not be technical at all, but has a lot of experience on interviewing people and have seen a lot of different roles in Amazon and AWS, and comes with a totally different perspective on what is important. And I think that, as you say, and because of the hiring process is very democratic, everybody has votes and voice. So this person has the same voice as the hiring manager, and it can bring this different aspect of getting more interesting candidates and more interesting people in the organization. Not everybody looking the same.
Absolutely. And I mean, you see just really interesting outcomes. Like I have been in interviews where, going into it, everyone is not inclined on the candidate. We didn't think, but then every single candidate, we spend 30 minutes talking about their interviews. It's the debrief. And so I've actually seen after that 30 minutes where we end up hiring them. Because actually it's like, oh, the gap that I felt that they had, well, you got some really good data points for that one. And then once you actually dig into that, it's like, actually that person is a great fit for Amazon. Or maybe they're not a great fit for this role, but they would be a great fit for that team. So we should get them to that hiring manager right away. So I think even if you've gone to the effort of being in the interview, we will spend I guarantee we will spend 30 minutes trying to give you the best shot possible to get that job at Amazon, which is one thing I really like.
Yeah. So then let's go back to the loop. Now we have the hiring manager, we have the bar racer, we have a couple of your teammates or maybe stakeholders there. And what happens? What they are doing? Because Amazon and AWS interviews are very particular. How the interviews go?
I think people get worried, with big tech companies that we're going to ask you like brain teasers, like how many golf balls fit in a school bus or something. No, we don't do that. We're going to ask, what I say to people is we're going to ask you to tell us some stories from your career. And of course, what we're really trying to look at is we're looking at Amazon's leadership principles, the 14 leadership principles that we feel make really good Amazonians. And so we're going to ask you stories that we think will illustrate some of those qualities. So I might tell you, Marcia, tell me about a time you had to deliver a project under a really tight deadline and you made it. What were the trade-offs you had to make? What were the results? Or it might be, tell me about the most innovative project you've worked on and why do you think it was so innovative? It'll be something like that. So not just tell me about your biggest weakness. Oh, I care too much. No, we don't do that.
Yeah, that's something I like from the AWS interview, that they ask questions that are about past and very anecdotal. So I think it's important.
We call it behavioral interviewing. Yeah.
I think it's very important to prepare for those questions because they might take you out of space because some of them, as you said, they are based on the leadership principles. So as an outsider for AWS and Amazon, you might not have a clue on what are the leadership principles.
Your recruiter will tell you to study them.
Yes. So study them.
And what I don't know about you, but what I did for I'm a bit of an organizational nerd. I had index cards for each of the leadership principles, and I wrote down a couple like examples that I thought showed off, I
did the same.
Yeah, but
not with the index card, but just a paper and put the leadership principle. Then I put stories and I thought about all the stories. It will really help you out in the interview.
And they don't have to just be from career. That's one thing that's important. I mean, if you're talking about a solutions architect role, talking about, like, for example, if you were involved in putting together a conference externally, that would be a great story to talk about. I've had people, when I ask them, one of our values is learn and be curious. And I'll say, what's something you learned on your own, not because you needed it for work. And they'll be like, oh, I learned how to rebuild old cars, or do build a house. Like those are amazing things, and I think show really someone who's always constantly being curious. It doesn't have to just be from your day job. So don't be too worried about that. Don't be worried about reusing examples, especially if you're earlier in your career. You're not going to have 20 years of examples to draw on. So you might try and think about examples that are, you can really dig into, that you've got where you were really heavily involved. That would be my biggest advice there is don't worry about having like a lot of them, but have really good examples with lots of details that you can share.
And I think sometimes there are some examples that are life-changing. Like you open a startup, even startup failed, don't be afraid. That's a great story to tell. And you might have different angles on it for sharing different like leadership principles that you apply in there and be able to use it in different questions.
I had a debrief just yesterday where we realized when we talked about the feedback that the candidate used the same project for 3 of us, but every one of us got a different angle on it. And it was really good. The one thing, though, I would say people often do is they try and guess what leadership principle we're looking for. And that might mean they give us a story that isn't actually answering the question. So don't get too caught up in like, oh, okay, so they asked that. So that is learn and be curious. And so I'll use my learn and be curious example. Just make sure you're actually still answering the question. Don't try and guess because you might get it wrong.
And one thing I think is important to tell people, don't make up stories because there is a lot of deep dive after you tell your story. The interviews are trained on going deep in the story and they will cut you. So
it's the number one red flag and the number one. Look, a lot of the leadership principles, you don't have to be amazing at it. We can train you at it, but earns trust. If you don't get people to trust you and like making something up and getting caught out in it is the worst. That's a red flag for a bar raiser and for a hiring manager. Because so don't BS.
Yeah, I think people think, behavioral questions, I can make stories. They are so easy. And no.
No, we will probably figure it out and it will be a huge red flag. And we like people who admit when they don't know something. Like that's actually a great earns trust. If you say, I don't know this, but here's what I would do anyway, we love that.
Yeah. And is there some strategy to answer these questions in a way that help you out?
And this is my number one pet peeve, the STAR format. Okay. Recruiters tell people this. It stands for situation, task, action, result. So let's pretend, the situation is, it was 2012 and I was working at a startup and my role was I was a project manager. The task was we had a big website redesign that we needed to launch in 6 months. What are the actions? And those should be I. A lot of people are like, well, we did this and we did that.
It's so hard.
It's hard, especially, it's hard. But you want to say, I did this and be specific. I managed the project. I held a weekly stand-up where I got together all the stakeholders. Every Friday, I put together a wrap-up, that I sent out. I ran the showcases every 2 weeks where we demo.
For me, I remember in my interview, I was saying we when I was talking about one particular, and then the interview was like, but what you did.
Yes. Be very specific I was like, on you. Okay, you pitched that idea. Great. How did you do it? Was it an email? Was it a meeting? Was it a report? What did you write in the report? We want to know that level of detail.
And if you have numbers?
That's it. That's the R part. The R part is the results. And so many people forget that part. It's like, yes, the result was we delivered the new website, but it actually raised sales by 23%. Or, our target was 5,000 new signups and we got 8,000. Give us numbers, quantify. I made a change that saved 3 hours a week, which at the going rate means the company saved $20,000 a month or something. Give us numbers in the R part and talk about the customer impact. Not just, I did it and I got an award because we delivered. What did that mean to your business? What did that mean to the customer, the end customer? That's what I love to hear as a bar raiser.
Yeah, and I think sometimes for technical people that is very hard, because if you come as a developer,
Yes.
you see your code and then they come with these behavioral questions like how you help a customer. Is like, a customer? I never heard of a customer. Yes, you've been helping customers all your time when you were coding the solution, but try to think about more about the story and how that problem that you solve in coding wise really help out someone.
Well, the customer might be another team internally as well. Yeah.
But it's hard sometimes for very technical people to see those things. And it takes, that's why it's very important to prepare, because you might need to do a little bit digging.
And be prepared for them to dig into it with lots of questions too.
Yeah. And what about the whiteboarding? You mentioned that there is a whiteboarding session. So how that goes? Do they give you something to prepare in advance, or?
It used to be in the room, obviously, but no, for the SA interviews, my team did. I don't think we sent out ahead of time what the whiteboarding would be, but it would be something like, okay, let's whiteboard out. I'm a customer. It would be like a mock customer. I'm a customer. I've got a 3-tier web app, but and it's running on. We'd give them some basics of it and then say, okay, how can you help us make it more resilient? And we want to see your thought process. We want to see, like, it's not judging your penmanship, it's really saying how you would present to a customer, really, because you do a lot of whiteboarding.
Do you need to know a lot about AWS and the cloud to start working as an SA?
That's the question, isn't it? Like, if you're coming from other cloud background, and we have people who do, that's fine. The general principles. It's always nice if you can be like, well, I know that in AWS it's called something else, and I believe it's called this. That's fine. We don't expect you to be a genius with all the AWS services, but you should definitely know the general architecture principles. If you do know the services and can speak to them, that's always nice, but it's not a must-have. And certs aren't a must-have either. I know that, some people asked you that, I think, but...
Yeah. These questions are coming from the audience, how much they need to know about the cloud. Because
Yeah. I would say knowing the cloud, yes. Having certifications shows me as a hiring manager that you're motivated and that you can study and that you can do a test and do it. I mean, just because you have the cert doesn't necessarily mean you're great at implementation. No. But it's a good sign. It's a positive sign, but it's not a requirement.
Yeah, so you don't need to have any certifications. And what kind of soft skills you need to have to be as an SA or to go through the interview?
Well, a solutions architect's talking to customers. So you need to have a lot of soft skills to be able to go in and talk to customers. And we actually, as part of, and we'll talk about it later, but there, we have training that we do provide to solutions architects. But we want to know, and again, that comes back to things like not getting caught out in a lie, not being obviously bluffing or telling, embellishing things. We want to see that you're honest. I think in terms of soft skills, being data driven, and that's where that R part of having numbers fits into it. Like if we can tell you're basing decisions off of that. Ownership is a big one. And I guess I would probably call that a soft skill, because there are no roles at AWS where you know exactly what you're going to do on any given day. You're really responsible. You have a lot of autonomy. And so we need people who are resourceful and who are able to actually make it up as they go along.
Yeah, AWS is a massive startup. So if you have a lot of the skills that work in a startup, you will be thriving in AWS. If you lead a lot of management, you will suffer a lot.
Be comfortable with ambiguity, as we would say.
And uncertainty, and a lot of talking with people.
Time management and prioritization. Yes.
The amount of opportunities are endless, but there are too many.
and personally, I would always say public speaking, just because I think even if you're only presenting to a room of customer stakeholders, being able to convey a story, being able to convey technical concepts in a way that's tailored for the audience in the room is key in any customer facing role. So I always think that doing some public speaking and being comfortable speaking in front of a room is going to be critical. For an SA is not sitting in a room with a computer all the time. They're actually talking to people.
And what about languages? Because I imagine English is a must for working in AWS. But what about local languages? For example, if I want to work in Europe, there is like 27 different languages. Do I need to know something?
More than that, I think.
I don't know, but Europe is a good example because there is so many languages, and maybe apply a role of SA in Finland. Do I need to know Finnish or Swedish or German or how that goes?
Yes. Well, so the official language of Amazon is English. So you do have to have business level English. I know people here in Europe get very worried about that. You don't have to be fluent or native in English, but you need to have a business level English of being able, and honestly, it would probably hold you back in terms of, we are writing heavy culture. So you need a basic proficiency in English. But beyond that, yes, there are local language teams. So here in Munich, for example, we have a team of solutions architects who all speak Russian, and they work with customers, with developers who are Russian, who speak Russian. We have German solutions architects. And one of the things we're realizing is, yes, a lot of developers speak English, but there are a lot of developers, especially in emerging markets, who do not. And so it's important that we can talk to builders wherever they are in their language. So if you have a second language, that is amazing. That is going to make you a very popular person. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just to have a basic knowledge of English. So for example, if you're able to understand this conversation until now,
if you can understand us, you're fine. You're good. You're good. Yeah.
And then having a first language that, for example, Spanish and enough English or German or French, and then you're good to work as an SA
and if
in a local
you can give a technical presentation in another language, oh, wow, yes. Because we are doing more and more local language tracks at our big events. And so SAs are speaking at a lot of those. Our big online summit that's coming up for EMEA, a lot of the speakers will be from our solutions architects teams.
Yeah. So now basically we have the whole interview, we have the phone screen, we have the loop, we have the technical challenge, we have the whiteboarding. And how is the timing for all of this? I will be sitting in my thumbs for like a month? Wait.
As I said, we have SLAs. So we have what we call the 2 and 5 promise. So if you have a phone screen, you are supposed to get an answer back to us from us within 2 days. And for an interview loop, 5 days. Obviously, it's an SLA. Sometimes SLAs get broken, but that is the goal. And they actually do measure it. And I know that if I did an interview 2 days ago. So I'm about to start getting automated reminders that I need to put my feedback in. And we take it very seriously because candidate experience is really important. We don't want you to have a bad experience.
No, and a lot of clients are customers, and a lot of them will be our future colleagues. So,
it's hard to find someone who isn't an Amazon customer in some way. So, yes, absolutely.
And then I want to touch, we talk about the bar raising, and I get a lot of questions on people like, I'm too old for applying. I have, 40, 50, 60-year-old. Can I apply to Amazon? Or I'm too young. I just leave the uni. I don't have any work experience. Can I apply to AWS? Or I'm from a minority group. Is I'm welcome? How is the culture? So I think this is a question. You're a fan of diversity and inclusion, and you're super strong inside the organization. So I think it's a question I want to bring to you.
Well, it was one of the questions I asked. I was like, how many other women were there in the SA org? And there weren't many. I was over 40 also when I joined AWS. But what is amazing is the company has set goals around this. It's something that we've actually just recently started sharing some of the numbers on our workforce publicly, which I can share you the link to that post, which I was really excited to see. There's a long way to go with some of these things, but we're actually really committed to it. And we've got some really cool programs as well for things like military veterans. We've got programs for people who are returning to work after a break where we actually work to upskill you. Graduates, I mentioned, we hire, there's a program called Tech U that, for example, trains solutions architects who are just recent graduates from uni. And one of the women I talked into applying for that program messaged me recently because she just got promoted. And yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to get your foot into Amazon. We're even looking at things like, I know that even within the SA job family, looking at making roles that are not full time, which offer people a little bit more flexibility, especially if they have family commitments. So we're really trying to be as inclusive as possible. Even, with the loop right now, we're even trying to make sure that when we're doing these things through video conference, we try and be as accommodating as possible to people too, because, I understand when someone's kid wanders in, or something like that, it happens. We're all working that way.
Yeah. If you have a 2-year-old at home, they don't understand that mommy is an important
Your daughter. I love when your daughter jumps in always. Oh my God.
She wants to be in the center of the call.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very big focus for us. And so I would say to anyone, please don't let that hold you back whatsoever. We are committed to being as inclusive as possible, and we will work with you, whatever we need to do. If it's for the right candidate, we will find a way.
And I think one of the things, at least I like from AWS, is that it's a massive organization. So there is always someone that at least have something like that looks like you or believe like you or is from your same country or speaks your same language. It's such a big organization. I'm a woman Latino in tech. We are 1% on the world, and there's so many Latino women in AWS, and that I never worked with other Latino women unless when I was back in my home country. It's rare to find, and in here there is a big even kind of group of Latino women inside the organization doing things. So even you might find yourself very in a minority. The company is so big that you might find someone that looks like you. There might be even some organization inside the company that like is addressing those minority groups. So I will definitely encourage you. And the language is English in general. Everything happens in English. So if you speak English, you don't feel excluded, because it happens to me. I don't speak Finnish. I work in some Finnish companies, and everybody was speaking Finnish and talking about their Finnish hobbies, and I was like, hey, I don't have anything to say.
Our events, I mean, I know this as well. Our events, we're getting captions. We're trying to do everything we can to be more accessible. I've even seen a few, I don't know if you've seen internally, where we have people doing sign language interpretation during some of our internal events. And yeah, as you mentioned, different internal groups. We have what we call affinity groups.
Yes.
So the Black Employee Network. We've got Women as Amazon. We've got the Glamazons, which I'm a member, which is the gay and lesbian Amazonians, which are so cool, and allies, There's so many different groups.
There's so many. You will find someone or something to relate. And I think it's a great company for that. And if you don't find it, you can make it your own.
Yeah, you can start one. Absolutely.
So feel free for that. And with that, I think now you're hired, or you might be starting your SA role. And we have the embark process. Like, I think that's one of the most fun times in AWS when you just join the company.
Yes, we call it drinking from the fire hose because you're kind of getting blasted in the face by a fire hose. Like, right now with remote, we had to pivot very quickly last year to doing remote onboarding for everyone. So of course you'll have new hire orientation where you get your laptop and you get your email set up basic and all things. Of that, basic things. And we do pretty good. Like everyone I've onboarded in the last year or two has been able to get online and get up to speed, that first day. And then you'll have an embark plan, which is new, which is great. I didn't have it when I started.
Oh, I did have one. So
lucky you. But it's a system internally where your hiring manager will customize your onboarding plan. And usually onboarding, you can expect to spend probably the first month or two just learning. You'll have a lot on Amazon culture. You'll have a lot of sort of, mandatory training you have to do. And then depending on your team, you might have people to meet. You might have, for the solutions architect role, you will have the awesome builder process, which I mentioned is it's a training that we put you through. You do 3 mock customer meetings. So the first one, you present sort of introduction to cloud for maybe a brand new customer who's just starting out. Your second one will be a whiteboarding exercise. And in the third one, you will actually produce a working demo. You'll actually build a demo and show it off. So you'll have a mentor through this, who you'll have training you do internally. So we really want to make sure that you understand the mechanics of your job and the culture and all the wider mechanisms we have at Amazon, all the tools at your disposal before we sort of, turn you loose.
Throw you inside. Customer.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also SAs do get a lot of certifications in the first month. I think.
You might have goals as an SA on which certifications your team wants you to get.
So you get a lot of technical training as well if you need so.
For our team, we do the PR certification. We want to make sure before you go out and talk to the public that you're representing Amazon properly. Yeah.
So now you started and then year passed and you want to maybe change roles. Is that something possible? You are the vivid example.
Yes, exactly. Exhibit 1 right here. Amazon is actually really friendly for this. So anyone can go to amazon.jobs and look at jobs and apply. I mean, as a manager, it's important you be honest with your manager about it. Like, they're not going to stop you. We want to support people moving. But it's always best to give them a heads up. I've had people from my team transfer to other teams. I've hired people from other teams onto my team. So we can coordinate, we can actually be quite flexible on how we do that. But yeah, as an internal hire, you don't go through the full process. Obviously external do, because we know that you raised the bar as an Amazonian. So you won't go through quite so many interviews, but you will probably do a couple. You'll meet some people on the new team just to make sure that you're a good fit for the new team and you know what the new role is going to be. But yeah, and I think you have to be here for about a year, I think, before you can do relocation. So don't plan on getting in and then immediately applying for overseas roles. You should expect to spend a little time, but technically there's no minimum, but usually it's about a year before you look to relocate.
Yeah, one of the things at least I like from AWS is the ability also to jump to be a manager and to jump stopping being a manager. And I think that sometimes for technical people, you want to see if you like it and then you might not like it.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to sort of try out other roles a little bit. To even asking for a secondment to another team, that's an option to try. We have, for example, on our team, Adrian Hornsby, who is a developer advocate who helped launch a new service and is now going to go work with a service team. So there's plenty of opportunities to sort of get involved with other teams and then look to maybe see if you like it and make a move down the track.
Yeah. So nothing is limited here.
No. I tried to get away from being a manager with this job, but Enrique talked me into it. Here I am.
We need more managers.
Yes, I know.
Yes. And what happens if everything looks nice, but I got rejected? What I do?
Oh, well, first of all, you should know that there are a million reasons you could get rejected that are not about you not being good enough. Okay. It might be that there was someone who was already further in the process than you. One of the things we do at Amazon is we don't compare candidates. I don't go, okay, I'm going to wait on Marcia's, to decide on Marcia until this other candidate comes through. The first person who comes through that meets the job requirements gets the job.
So as soon as you see the job, apply.
Jump on it. Don't wait. So timing does matter a little bit. It might be that the level that actually and that's a big one for me right now. For these DA roles I'm hiring, I need someone who can be responsible for all of Middle East and North Africa. That's a huge region. I can't give that to someone who's straight out of uni. I need someone who's got a demonstrated history of owning big projects like that. So it might be that you're a great fit, just not at the level we need right now. So I'm going to refer you maybe internally. And it's cool because when someone applies and they have applied in the past, I can see the feedback and hey, actually, they really liked that person. It just wasn't the right timing for them. They look great. I'm going to recycle them for my team. So,
and I think one important tip there for people listening, if they ask you a question and you didn't know and you apply again, research it.
Yes.
That goes in the learn and be curious is one of the things that people like get super excited. They ask you the same question and now you know the answer. And it's like, that's a really great sign.
Yeah. If I see, 2 years ago, they applied for an SA and they were great. Their networking was their weak point. And the person comes in and nails networking. It's like, oh, that is an amazing sign that look, you don't always get, detailed feedback because we just don't have time, honestly.
But you know in the interview which questions were your weakest, at least in the technical parts. You know that in some part you were able to really thrive and in some parts you were like kind of very stuck.
Yeah. And you can ask the recruiter if they can get feedback. Sometimes they will come to me and say, do you have any advice for this person? Depending on, I may actually be able to suggest, actually, if you're really dedicated to this and you do these things over the next few years, I think that will actually get you where you want to go. So sometimes we're able to do that. You can reach out to them maybe afterwards, but I can't guarantee you'll get a response every time.
Yeah. So if you get rejected, try again. Some months later.
So many people who come back after a period of time. It's really common.
So you raise your bar in yourself and...
Yeah. And like I said, it might just be that actually there was one thing missing that is critical for that particular team. And for another team, you would have gotten through. So it really is dependent.
Can you be in the system multiple times for multiple jobs at the same time?
You can only be going for one at a time. So if you apply to multiple, I think only the last one maybe will apply, or the first one, I'm not sure. So apply to one at a time, I would suggest. But the recruiter, if they're good, will recommend you to other stuff because they want you to get hired.
Yes. And I think one question to round up this up is like that we got it from the audience, and I find it very interesting because it ties to the past life and your current life together. What is the difference between a developer advocate and an SA interview?
Oh, good question. 80% of it's probably the same, to be honest with you. Even the technical phone screen that we do would be very similar to the technical phone screen we do for a solutions architect. We're going to ask you basic cloud architecture stuff. But then what I look for with a developer advocate is that impact at scale. So instead of just tell me how you've, helped this one customer, I want to see, tell me about your biggest, most challenging audience you've presented to. Tell me what made it challenging. And I say, in this particular region you're looking at, what objections do the customers there have to moving to the cloud, and how might you counter some of those? So I'm going to look for more specific stuff for the region. I'm going to look for more specific things around scale. I'm going to look at...
And also there's a presentation.
We do have a presentation assignment for the DA. We want to see how you present. So we're going to ask you to give us a little presentation, see how you handle questions, things like that.
Yeah, and how you tell stories, because that's very important for us. It's not just dumping a lot of technical information, but so many other things.
Yes, absolutely. I want to hear about the communities you're a member of. I want to get a sense of, because everybody on our team kind of has an area of passion or depth. Whether it's serverless, whether it's supporting the community, whether it's infrastructure as code, everybody's got an area that's kind of their thing. And I want to find out what your thing is.
Yeah. So that's more for DAs. It's very similar, but it has a little bit different aspect. That is the scale and
definitely
the presentation skills.
if you like talking to customers one-on-one, solutions architect. If you like talking to 500 customers at a time, developer advocate.
Yeah. And neither of us code professionally. We all do with demos. So if you like coding for products, maybe you need to go to the other part of the AWS organization.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we don't commit much code in the AWS repository.
Demos. You can excuse a lot by calling it a demo.
Yeah, and it's good. You don't need to maintain it. That's my favorite things of doing demos. I can do it and then put it in GitHub forever. But I think you share a lot of information. And,
I'm thirsty. I talked a lot.
Yeah, that's why I always have half a liter of tea here with me. Very important things. Do you have something else to add or some last tip or something very important that people should be aware when they get into this?
I gave all my good interview tips, like don't say we too much, use the star, like really use the star format.
What leadership principles are like the ones that they should look more?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it varies. Like as a bar raiser, what I usually do is ask the hiring manager for every job interview, what are the most important?
Like
for essays, I think for essays, ownership is always a big one because so much of what you do is self-driven and you work quite autonomously. I think learn and be curious because we are releasing new features all the time and you need to want to actually keep up with what's happening. For an essay, bias for action. I personally, bias for action is probably my favorite, which says that a lot of decisions are reversible. And so it's no point spending a lot of time researching. Let's just do a demo. Let's just do a POC. Let's just do an experiment and iterate. That's really key for an essay.
It's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. And I think the more senior you go, hire and develop the best is important. I want to know how you take other people along the journey with you.
Yeah, sure. The more senior you go, the more strategic leadership principles you also need to start thinking about and less hands-on.
Less execution, more long-term. Yeah.
So think about that when you're answering the questions. And if you're applying for a principal role or you're applying to associate, that's the different things that they are expecting from you. So yes, Kris, I think people now have like over an hour of information. So they should go to the links that we leave in the description box and apply to all the shows, to one show.
No. They should email us and get us to refer them.
Okay, do that. So you pay my summer holidays. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, but go and apply and check. And if you have any questions, you can reach to Kris, to me, or to the hiring manager or recruiter. They are all happy to answer the questions about the roles. And because this is not something you are doing as a favor. No, we all want to work together. We want to hire you. You want to work here. So we all need to be in the same page. So don't feel afraid to ask questions and to get involved with the people. At the end of the day, the company is just an entity, but behind it, there is humans. So.
And I think every single Amazonian would tell you like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I got hired. Like, it's everyone has imposter syndrome. Everyone gets nervous ahead of time. Don't let that hold you back. Like Yeah.
And the job descriptions look very daunting.
They can look quite daunting.
They have like 20 million requirements. And I don't think there's humans that knows everything that is in that job description. But focus on your strength. And if you think that you can do the job, go and do it. If you have questions, try to find essays, for example, or whatever role you're applying and interact with them and ask them. I think they will be more than happy to answer questions, and we all like to hire the best. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's all for us today.
Thanks for having me on the show. It was so fun.
Yes, and I'm super excited to have you here. So thank you, Kris, again.
And I want to get more awesome people working at Amazon, both in my team, but also, like I said, through the Bar Raiser training program, I've seen there's so many other teams, by the way, that we didn't even talk about, like Alexa, there's devices, there's Amazon retail, of course, there's so many. And yeah, so don't limit yourself just to what you think you want to do. Have a look around Amazon.jobs because there's a ton.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope everybody's inspired now to come and work with us. So thank you, Kris. I hope you have a great day.
You too. See you later.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you for watching this video until the end. All the links mentioned are in the description box, so you can find everything that we talk with Kris in the interview. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you are watching this far. For sure you will like all my content, and let me know in the comment box below who you would like me to interview next. I try to make these interviews once a month, and I try to invite people that you might find very interesting. So that's it for me for today. I hope you enjoy it, and I see you next week with another episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao!